Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Talk Freelance to Me podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Cisneros Mejia, and you are in for a treat today, Freelance fam, because we have our very first artist on the show. Welcome, everyone. Please introduce yourselves and welcome to the space, Artysta LuLu. Hi, Artysta LuLu. How's it going today? How are you over there in Tampa?
Phenomenal. Honestly, I couldn't be better. It's wonderful. Just like super in the middle of a transition with like moving, got my new art studio, which is where I am at the moment. So working already on many projects, like right at the end of some big projects, right at the beginning of some new projects. So just excited, ecstatic.
That's so cool. Guys, I've known Luisa LuLu, Artysta LuLu, for many years now, and she actually made a beautiful painting to me. I'm going to have a picture of this. If you're listening on audio, I'll have it on my social media so you can see. This is a phoenix painting. If anybody's familiar with the concept of the phoenix, the mythical bird, that it stands for rebirth and recreation. It's so meaningful to me, and I have it in my office. I see it every day, and it just brings me such inspiration. So I'm so excited today to get to talk about your career, Lulu, and your artwork. Freelance fam, I'm going to read you a little bit about her bio so you can get to know Luisa more. Luisa Padró, who also goes by Artysta LuLu, is a visual artist, expressionist painter whose style mixes vivid, energetic, happy colors with cartoons and images of the cosmos. Her paintings bring a simplistic, childlike view to complex and out of this world ideas, promoting peace, love, self-empowerment, and curiosity. So that's your formal bio, but why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us more about you?
Absolutely. So I am a professional fine art artist, painter, muralist, illustrator. I have illustrated a couple of children's books now, two children's books. I have a third one in the works. Also, I have apparel. I sell my own apparel. I have an apparel line that I do all of the designs for. It's like an art, you have to have a particular style. You like bold colors and artistic patterns and things like that. But I'm able to incorporate my art into multiple mediums, and the reason that is because I want everyone to be able to have access to it. So obviously I need to be able to make a living off of it, so I'm not just like, here, free art for everyone.
Right.
But I love doing public art because that's free to the public gets to enjoy the art in that way. Apparel, it's at that price point where they're like, I'm willing to spend this much on fashion because fashion makes people feel a certain way. I also do stickers and little pins and greeting cards because I want to be available at every price point. So not just paintings like yourself. If you have a collection, an original, one of one, that whatever you paid for it, it's already worth multiple that today. So imagine in 10, 20 years. So I don't know if I just did a pitch on like why you should invest in me. But yeah, I started. Do I go into like where I started?
Absolutely, yeah. Tell us about that decision.
Sure. So I've been an artist ever since as a child, but not really self-titled artist. I just loved drawing and doing anything that was related to artistic expression, dance, poetry, music, musical instruments, etc. I grew up always being this way. Like literally in the fifth grade, I used to steal art supplies. I'm not really that proud of that, but like I feel like we're past the period of time where you could get like, arrested for something like that. But yeah, I used to actually, after art class, I would be like looking for the teacher so that I could stick a couple extra art supplies because I was like addicted to making art, but never really understanding that would be an option as a career growing up because my mind was always set on like professional, like in terms of doctor, lawyer, pharmacist, something along those lines. So I did go to a 4-year college, Middle Tennessee State University, where I am a founding sister of my chapter.
Hey.
Yes, bring us six, let's go. Yeah, so I got my degree in mass communications, public relations specifically. And in 2008, I moved to Tampa, Florida, where I was like, I am going to be this businesswoman that is going to be bossing everything. Like, I'm going to be on top of the corporate ladder. Well, 2008 also happened to be the year of the recession. So little did I know that I was coming to Tampa thinking I'm gonna be buying my own house like in a couple years. No, I was literally in line applying for waitressing jobs because there was no jobs. There was
Yeah.
We had to take like standardized tests just to try to get a waitressing job. I was like, is this real
Mm.
life? But to make a long story short, I did get a couple of jobs within like customer service. I ended up working for a university, so I started doing student services, and basically, advising students on their career beyond, their bachelor's degree or their master's degree. And I was actually pursuing my MBA during that time.
Wow.
And I kind of hit a crossroad in 2009 to 2010 where I was really trying to decide, what do I want to do professionally? I'm going to continue with the MBA, or do I have this opportunity to become a lawyer? And that became a thing. Oh, I might become
Mm.
a lawyer. And when I tell you that the universe conspired to make that not happen, like I can't tell you how many times I showed up to the LSAT prep test class and they were like, "You're not registered for this class." I'm like, my email says I'm registered for this class. Oh yeah, that class got canceled. It's in a month. 1 month later. Oh yeah, we had to cancel that class. There wasn't enough people to sign up for it. So like that just continually kept happening. So then
Yeah.
I started thinking, well, what do I do? I really want to become an artist.
Mm.
And I had this epiphany moment in 2010 when all of that was happening. I was at this crossroad and I was like, who am I really living my life for? Right?
Whew.
Because let's be honest,
Yeah.
Latina here,
Yeah.
very traditional upbringing. I wanted nothing more than to please my parents and my
Hmm.
family, and I wanted to make everybody proud of me. That's it. That was really my main motivation forever, was I just want everyone to be proud of me. But then there was this epiphany I had, which was like, but are you going to be proud of yourself?
Mm.
Like I'm the one that has to put in all of the work and all of the time for the classes. And then let's say hypothetically I become a lawyer. That's a lot of work. And for what? Just for people to be proud of me when I'm spending every extra dollar I have on art supplies and making art, and if it's your birthday, you're getting a painting, you get a painting, you get a painting,
Yeah.
you get a painting. Like it gave me a reason to create. So I was like, I'm going to do this for myself. And I did. And every step after that was art focused. I did not quit my job to become an artist. I just want to put that out there because some people think that that's my message, and that's not my message. Definitely focus on, going for whatever that dream is and putting in all of your extra time and effort into it. But you want to keep your things in order first, right? Before you do that. So here we are. Yeah. What is it? 13 years later.
That is an incredible story. I love that so much.
Thank
And I could
you.
totally
Thank you.
see, how you're using your public relations,
Mm,
expertise, your business expertise, just knowing about those things and leveraging them now in showcasing your paintings and your creative works to the world. That is so cool. That's
yes.
really,
Thank
really
you.
courageous.
Thank you so much. Thanks. I
I
appreciate
love
it.
that. I love, love, love that. Can you explain to us, because there might be a lot of people who are interested who also enjoy art. Maybe they view it as a hobby and they're doing this 9 to 5, but maybe they would like to learn more about selling it. Can you explain
For
what's
sure.
considered like sellable art versus art that
Sure.
you just make for your own
Yeah,
fulfillment?
absolutely. Wow. Okay. Now this is going to be a bit of a rabbit hole, so I'll try to keep it quite condensed.
Awesome.
Now, I think for most artists, one of the biggest struggles is actually defining your own work as art. A lot of
Mm,
us have like imposter syndrome. We don't think it's
yeah.
good enough. We compare ourselves right away to whatever else is out there. We're not really taking into consideration the journey that other artists are taking, like how much time, years, and their experiences that got them to where they are. We're just taking it for face value. My artwork doesn't look like that. And therefore, my artwork, it must not be art. That is a farce. That's completely fake. I mean, it's not true. It's a lie, right? The devil is a liar, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, first thing first is make the art that makes you happy. That's it. Don't focus when you're creating artwork. Do not make your main focus what is going to sell. And I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive if you have like any business training, because in business training, it's like we need a focus group to tell us what they like, and we need to
Right.
make that right. But when it comes to art, art is so subjective. It's a language. It really is a language. All forms of art are language. And so make what burns your flame, because there will be, I promise you, out of nearly 8 billion people on this planet, there will be a sufficient number of people that will resonate with what you're making, no matter what it is. I like seriously, I mean, as long as it's not harming anyone, that's what I say. As long
Yeah.
as you're not harming anyone else. But so long as you're making something that it's feeding that flame within you, you will find other people. Make sure that you're communicating the story behind it because everybody wants to know what it
Mm.
means. What does this mean? What inspired you? Like people want to be able to connect with it that way because you can only receive so much information visually. But once you know what the story is behind it or what the inspiration was behind it, even if it was just a feeling, say that. Even if you're like, I don't know, I saw the red and I saw the blue and I saw the green and I felt like the red goes here, the blue goes here, the green goes here. It was just a feeling. Well, what were you thinking when you had that feeling? Maybe there's something that you're kind of going through in your own life that was leading you to feel that way to do that. Okay, I could go on forever about that. But that's my point number one is make art that you love. Secondly, if you really want to sell it, you know that focus group we talked about?
Yeah.
Your friends and your family and your coworkers, that's your focus group. Start sharing what you make and seeing if there's anyone within your immediate focus group, your circle, that would be interested in either A, purchasing a work of art that you already have created, or B, commissioning you to create a work of art for them. You know, start to think it's really great to experiment. I think that experimentation is something that artists should do and they should constantly do it. It's something that helps you find like what is your voice, what is your handwriting, if you will, in art. So definitely experiment. But with that focus group, you're going to find a couple of people who will pay you for what you're doing. I know for me personally, again, I had to be like convinced that my artwork would sell before I could actually
Mm.
believe I could sell it. I didn't have anyone really guiding me through that process. I had a neighbor who saw a work of art that I made that, no kidding, was like this small, and he paid me $200 for it. A
Wow.
piece this small, and I didn't ask him the price. I was just showing him the work that I had made, and he said, "I want that painting. I will give you $200 right now for it." And I was like, "Wait a minute, what is the catch? Like, is this a
Right.
reality TV show? Like, are you sure you're not going to just ask for your money back? Like, what's going on?" And that was actually one of the moments for me that really like lit the light bulb in my head that wow, I can actually make money off of this. Like, this is something that I could actually create some income with. Um, so yes, additionally, if you're coming into this situation right now, the internet is your friend. It is so your
Mm.
friend because not only is there YouTube University where you could learn how to do pretty much any and everything, you know, you've got all the social medias, the TikToks, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, and all of those that they show. There's people, artisans, constantly showing you how to do things. Like before, you almost had to just figure it out yourself, and now you can just watch somebody else do it and say, "Hey, I can apply this as well in my own way," which is another thing. Like, please be original. Yes, I know artists they steal from each other, but be original as much as you could possibly be because you want to be able to stand out from like all the rest of it. You don't want somebody to look at your artwork and say, "Oh, isn't that so and so?" Like, no, that's my
Mm.
artwork. Sorry,
Yeah.
but yeah. So going back to that, start within your immediate circle. Find those groups. Find out what they want. Find out what are they willing to pay for. You'd be surprised that people will pay for prints. A lot of artists kind of they think like, well, I got to create this one painting and I've got to sell it and I've got to sell it for top dollar. And why isn't it selling? Well, have you ever thought about taking a high quality photo of that painting and then
Mm.
printing off like a limited run of prints that you sign and then selling those? Like that is a big way of how do you say, making it work for you, cash cowing, if you will, that one image. And I know for some artists as well, and I might be jumping the gun on some questions, but for some artists, they have a hard time letting go of their art because they're extremely
Mm.
attached to like the meaning of it.
Yeah.
I've come across a lot of artists who they want to sell their work, but they're just like, this is my baby, this is my
Yeah.
child, you know, my thought child. So that's where you can make prints and you can sell prints and you can make that a cash cow for you, make some money off of that, and yeah. But I hope I answered the question. I know that was a very loaded answer.
I love it. Thank you. You can tell that you've done this for a long time and that you've gained, a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience in this space. And I just think that it's so true. People, when you were talking about the story, that people are curious about the story, that is, and I've seen that, I've asked that, like even at restaurants, with musicians, when your favorite artist comes out
Hmm.
with a new album or a new song, even, or the new music video, it's always like, what was the creative process? Where was the inspiration? And I think even now more so with like AI and how AI is disrupting content, like writing, art, even music.
Hmm.
People like you who create something from nothing and it's from your human hands and your human brain, like
Yes.
that is going to be even more of a premier, like
Thank you.
couture, top shelf
Thank you.
experience.
Yes.
Because there
Thank
there
you.
only can be one. There is only one Artista Lulu, and
Thank
that's
you.
very special. And I think that people are going to want to crave it. I think people are excited about the technology, and I think there's a space for it. But now even more so when there's so many things that are commodities that come from overseas and they don't mean anything. When you get a
Mm,
piece of artwork that someone thought about, that it literally you breathe life into this creation. Like I think that's so
thank
special.
you. Yes. I love that analogy. I love that because it really is. I also like to say that artists are alchemists because
Mm.
we are able to essentially turn an idea, which is nothing, right? You think of like an
Yeah.
idea, it's like it's not a tangible thing. It's this like metaphorical thing, and then we're able to produce something that is in its physical form that all started right here. So I do believe that artists are alchemists. I think of that all the time, and not just like what I do, artists, but I'm sorry, I need to put my little assistant down, but just any type of art form that to me is alchemy. And for those who are watching, if you don't know what alchemy is, it's turning, I believe it was like aluminum into gold or something, like
Yeah.
being able to change the chemical compound of one metal and turning it into another metal. And I feel that that's exactly what art is.
It is. I mean, the ability to take something abstract like a thought, a concept, and to make it visual like that. That is, yeah. I can't. That's unbelievably hard because when you're writing a
Hmm.
story, and I know you write as well, you can use words to get to where you're going, even if you haven't written the idea out yet, but you can start to shape it. You can
Hmm.
say, here's what I know about
Hmm.
it, or here are the thoughts that I want to kind of communicate, and you can use other
Hmm.
words as almost like stepping stones to get to what you're trying to communicate. But what
Yeah.
you're doing visually is literally taking something that's unspoken, that doesn't exist anywhere, and you're creating it. There is no stick figure because you're drawing the stick figure. You're creating the
Right.
painting. And
For
that
sure.
is,
For
it's
sure.
magical.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
cool.
I love thinking about it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've done this for a while. Can you share your most memorable art project? I know you do murals. I know you mentioned your clothing. Tell us about maybe that first big win, even, or when you realized, like, oh my God, I'm doing it. I made it. What was that like?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Because I don't really get asked this question. So thinking about it, it's like there's so many different moments that were so pivotal for me because again, like I can't stress enough being an artist that the amount of imposter syndrome that you feel because I don't know, sometimes it's like I could have a day where I feel like it's not my art isn't resonating with anyone. Like, oh, why do I even put so much time and effort into this if nobody's even connecting with it? And then the next day, it's like somebody comes right up, like if they were spying on me and they're like, "Oh my God, you're Artysta LuLu. I see your art everywhere. I love it. Oh my God, my cousin bought your piece." Like I'm like, whoa, like
Yeah.
where is this coming from? Like it's almost like the universe is like, let me just validate your feelings really quickly. Let me
Yeah.
send a believer to you real quick. But let's see, one major moment for me. Okay, I'm a very big believer of law of attraction. And
Yeah.
that was actually one of the things I watched The Secret in 2010. And that was one of the moments for me that I was like, again, I told you that epiphany, like, who am I living for? Like,
Mm.
who am I doing all of these things for? Whose happiness is really what matters here for me? And um, in 2011, I want to say, or no, I'm sorry, it was later. It was 2013. Or was it later? Yeah, it was 2013. a coworker of mine, I was working at a university, and a coworker of mine comes in with a magazine, and I don't know if I have it here, but I have it somewhere around here. My coworker comes in with a magazine, and it's called the Law of Attraction magazine. And I was like, hey, this is right up my alley. And he sits next to me and he's reading the magazine and goes, Luisa, I could see you in this magazine. Now, mind you, at this
Wow.
point in my life, I was not in any, well, I was in Miami. I had gotten into a gallery down in Miami. I had a collection of about, I want to say it was like 15 cohesive pieces, and I had it in the show down in Miami. I live in Tampa. So my coworker had not seen my show. He'd only seen photos. But he looks at me and he's like, I could see you in this magazine. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so sweet. So that's so kind of you to say that. He's like, no, seriously, you should contact whoever the publisher is and see if they'll put you in this magazine. And I'm like, that is such a harebrained idea. Like, who would be like, let me get this artist that nobody knows about and put her in this magazine? And no kidding, I did it. I was like, let me just email them. Like, what's the worst that could
Yeah.
happen? They say no, and you're at the same place that you were before, which is one of my main
100%.
philosophies.
Yeah.
Ask, just ask. So I shoot them a message. And I'm like, hey, I'm this artist. I'm actually in a major gallery down in Miami. All against the odds. It was when I believed in the law of attraction that I started to use it towards, to work for me. There's my article for
Oh,
Law of Attraction
wow.
magazine called Pursuing My Passion. And I'll zoom in a little bit better
Beautiful.
for you. Excuse the light here.
I love it.
But there I am with my paintings, pursuing my
Yes.
passion. I discovered the art of the law of attraction. And I wrote the article myself. So she asked me, she was like, do you have an article just about your story? And I didn't at that moment. I was like, yes, yes, I
Right.
do have an article. Let me send it to you real
Why
quick. And
wouldn't
I'm like
I? Right.
writing something real quick. But it's essentially the story that I told you about, like, how I had gone to college, I got a degree, I was working in a professional environment. But my passion had always been art, and I just really wanted to pursue that. And then I came across information about law of attraction, and I started to use that to my benefit. And so that's essentially what the story is. Um, so yeah, I made it. There's the cover here.
That's
The
incredible. Oh my goodness. Epic love. Wow. I love
Yes.
that.
So yeah, so that is one of my proudest moments, I could say. And actually, it was like kind of a first for me because, again, I had essentially been like, I don't know how to say it, just like creating all of the hype for myself so that like I would keep going with it. And if you've ever read the book by Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist, as a matter of fact,
Yes.
it's talking
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
alchemist. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. There's if you have you read that book?
Yes. It's been a while, but now I
Okay,
need to read it now that we've talked
read
about
it.
it.
Oh, it's
Yeah. I
always so
need to
good.
go
But
back.
essentially, it's kind of like the thing that says that there's a universal law of beginner's luck. That whenever you set out for something and you're like, this is a passion of mine, I really want to pursue this, there will be like this chain of events that just happen in your favor because it wants you to pursue that path. So it doesn't make it far too difficult. Otherwise, you'll quit, right?
Right.
So I feel like that was kind of one of those alchemist moments for me when I got into this magazine again. And then I got printed twice because I got printed in the end of the year. It was like the recap. So they republished my article, which was
Wow.
amazing. It ended up getting me in another gallery that same year for being in the article. I got a feature spot. So I got a whole month feature show in the gallery, all because I was in an article. It's crazy. And because my coworker just showed up with the magazine. He's like, I
Yeah.
can see you in this magazine. And
It's amazing.
and who would have thought? I never ever would have ever thought like, oh, submit an article. Like that's a thing. I mean, I'm a public relations major. I should have known that's a thing, right? But I guess I had never thought about it for myself. I never
Yes.
thought about it in that context. I thought about it in the context of, oh, for a client. But that would be major. And then another major point, besides being in the gallery, I was in a gallery called the Wandering Eye Art Gallery in Ybor City, which was a co-op gallery.
Mm.
And I feel like those years, I was in that gallery from 2013 until it closed in 2019.
Wow.
The building had gotten sold, and so our spot got taken, which is fine. But those years were super formative for me as an artist. I learned so much just about art business, which for
Mm.
anyone who's an artist, it is crucial you learn about how art business works. Like, it is good to just be like, I'm going to make art and I'm just going to tell people I sell it and I'm going to make a little website and I'm going to do that. But there's a lot of marketing knowledge that goes into it. Nowadays, in today's day and age, you have to understand the algorithm. You have to know on what social media platform to post what at what time and at what day and what hashtags to use and who to tag and all of those things. They're all like crucial elements. So you need to learn those things to become successful in the business aspect. I mean, definitely, I went into it thinking, oh, I'll just law of attraction my way into this, which it is true. Like, the belief is such a large factor. And absolutely, I'm a huge proponent of, what you think about, you bring about. But you do have to follow that up with action. You will not just attract it if you're just sitting in your room doing nothing about it and thinking about it. Like, the thinking is crucial, but you have to follow whatever you're thinking and follow it up with some of that action. And so, yeah, learning the business, being at the Wandering Eye was huge. I learned so much about, just how to price a piece. Who do you sell it to? What information do you give them to sell it to them? Before, when I was a little bit more naive, I thought, well, I need to be able to justify the value of this piece by letting them know how much I paid for all of the materials. Oh. So by the way, this canvas cost me this, and this these paints I used. You could tell there's like at least 20 different colors of paints, which means that I needed this much, and it took me this many hours to make.
Yeah.
That was Lulu or Luisa or Artysta LuLu, however which I would like to know me as, from 2010. 2023, Lulu would say, it's the amount of time that you've spent learning about your craft.
Yes.
The amount of time you spent creating the individual piece. Give yourself a proper hourly wage. One thing a lot of people don't think about is how often are you handling that piece from, say, gallery to gallery, pop-up show to pop-up show, or whatever format for you to sell it. So I posted it on my website, but I've also shown it at 20 different art shows. Let me ask you, Ashley, do you think that those 20 art shows that I've handled that piece and showcased it and spoken to different people about it, should that factor into the value of the painting at all?
I think so. I think that you put a lot of work into marketing that painting and developing it, talking it up, and and then people would probably express interest in it too. Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely. So I don't think a lot of artists think about that whatsoever. They just think, okay, I spent approximately $100 in materials on this one piece. So I'll just charge $50 over that. Like, what?
Right.
Like, come again? Like, how are you going to be able to have any type of successful business if your markup is $50? Like, in this day and age, honey, that's not happening. So definitely you want to be able to stand by the value of your piece. One thing that I learned from my husband, he's a New Yorker, by the way, and he is very unfiltered, very matter of fact, he does not sugarcoat. I, on the other hand, although I'm a Puerto Rican military brat, I was raised predominantly in the South, so in southern states, or like in the Midwest.
Yes.
So I was learned like oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, like, may I please, like, oh, I'm sorry, like, and apologizing for everything that I do.
Yes, me too.
I'm a very, like, I'm the sugarcoating type person.
Right.
And before, if somebody used to ask me, well, what are you charging for this piece? I'd be like, oh, is it okay if I charge you this much? And he'll raise the price just to see how they feeling about it. He's like, well, I know it's $250, but let me just say $350 and see where your head's at. Because he's like one of those negotiators. You take him to the flea market and you're getting a deal on everything. But I learned a lot from that sort of attitude, that sort of you have to be that way in business. And I think as artists, we are a little bit more submissive because the way society sort of treats artists just overall in general, it's almost like you have the audacity of doing something you love and as if it's not work.
You know what? That resonates so much with me as a writer who writes professionally, because it's like, oh, well, I would write this myself, but I'm just really busy. Or like, I'll have my college student daughter just write the copy for this, or I'll hire somebody from overseas to do it. And it's like, okay, well, if it's that easy, why aren't you doing it? Like,
correct.
Right. Why are you? And why should these things that are, like you said, society views artists, that starving artists, or that we're starving writers, and that we're always tinkering with something, but we're not given that permission to profit from our talents. And it's like, how do people have that audacity? To your point, you didn't just wake up with these skills. It's taken you a lifetime to get to
Thank you.
2023, you know? And so
Thank
like
you.
just because
Exactly.
a painting might take you a lot, maybe less time, maybe not. But they're not paying for your time. They're paying for the
Correct.
value and the impact and like when I was talking about the inspiration your painting gives me, that's something I can't buy just anywhere. You know, and so
Exactly.
people they need to come correct, come with
Thank you.
respect, you know, toward
Thank
these
you. Y'all
gifts you
heard it
have.
here first. Yes, like seriously. I mean, I'm so happy that you're saying this, and I know that you're like you said, you resonate with this because you're also a creative, so you understand
Yeah.
what it's like for people to try to sort of devalue the work that you're doing.
Yes.
And again, it to your point, I get that so often as well. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, my kid, they're looking at my art, and let me show you what my 10-year-old is doing, and I'm like,
Oh my
so what are
God.
you trying to say? Like,
Yeah.
your 10-year-old artwork, no, it's great by the way. The 10-year-olds are really, really good. But it won't sound the same,
Yeah.
right? Like if somebody were to have someone else write that for them, it would not sound the same. And it will not have all of the educational background that you have to offer and that value to put into that. And it's just kind of like I think what we need to do is just learn how to put into words what that value is. How can we like
Right.
better explain to our clients what they're getting for their dollar amount other than just what they see? Because they're looking at it and they're like,
Yes.
oh, well, this is on a wood panel. I know that probably didn't cost you hardly anything. And I'm like, because it's on wood, guess what? I'm charging twice as much now. Like, because canvas is
Exactly.
everywhere, wood's not. Like, with
Yes.
inflation, you know what I'm saying? No, but seriously, I think like yeah, just to your point, as artists, my suggestion is definitely learn the business as much as possible. And there are free resources out there. If you can't afford to like go back to school to learn it, that's not a problem. There are so many resources that are out there. There's free resources. I'm a part of like 4 or 5 different artist newsletters that I just kind of like Googled artist grants and artists like you want to look for nonprofit arts organizations because they get financial funding. I know that was redundant. Funding
Yeah.
uh, uh, from like the government to go towards artists and to go towards nonprofit organizations and et cetera, and to really fund the arts. So that's like a really big resource, and there's a lot of little tidbits and things that you can learn about the arts business through that as well.
That's a great resource. I love that. I love that. That's really great advice. You touched on so many gems there. Thank you so much. How
For
do
sure.
you? Because I know you were talking about before. You know, you create for yourself, but then you also create for you through your focus group, like you said, through what people are resonating with or kind of what they're asking for. How do you organize your time with creating the art and then all of the marketing, like the social media, the going to the art shows, the talking to people? Like, is that 60/40? Like, how would you divide that?
That is not a hard number because it really goes based off of like what the priority is. If I have a commission and there's a deadline to that commission, that's my number one priority. Like
Okay.
you probably won't see a post from me online just because I'm so hard focused on
Yeah.
getting this one project done. But what I try to do is because I have all of like things on my cell phone or on my tablet, I know any opportunity that I get, if we're let's say at a coffee shop and I'm waiting for my coffee to get made, or I'm just chilling at the coffee shop. That's when I'm going to capitalize on that free time and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do the post, make the little reel if I have some of that time to make the reel. Respond to what I need to. I mean, I'm pretty much working like I can't say 24/7, but if I'm awake and I'm not painting, I'm probably on my phone either looking up like what are the opportunities, what ideas can I use from the reels to make a new reel that's going to display my artwork and sort of just kind of keep pushing the artwork or what have you. There's not really a hard number for me, unfortunately. I will make a list of what needs to get done. I'll prioritize what are those things that are the most important But yeah, this being my full time, I do have sort of like the freedom to do so, which I could say. But yeah, I would say it's definitely commissions first though. Like if I'm working on a personal project that I'm like, this is something that I'm probably not going to see the payment for until this is out and about and all of that, there'll be a hard stop the minute a commission comes through. And I mean, again, that could be my own fault. I know some artists who they'll say, for this month through this month, I am taking no commissions. And they'll sort of
Mm.
gear it around the holidays. So that would work best, like, say, August through January would be your commission period. And then February to whenever would be like maybe the offline, like no commissions at all. I'm focusing only on projects. I know that that works for some artists as well. I haven't been able to do that. I'm kind of like somebody's calling me and they're like, "Hey, by the way, we got this thing in 2 weeks," and I'm like, "2 weeks? What's going on?" Like, okay, hold on, I can make it happen. I can make it happen. So,
Yeah.
so, so yeah. No, I'm lucky. My husband, he's an artist as well, so I have to give him a shout out. I have to give him all the props because he comes through. Like, I got so lucky. Maybe it was law of attraction. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I don't know, but I definitely got a supportive partner, and he comes in and he'll help me with whatever needs to get done if it's crunch time. So
That's so cool. So do you guys create pieces together or murals together, or like are your styles like way different? How does that work?
we do have different styles. He's like from New York, so he has a very like New York graffiti street style, but he
Cool.
incorporates a lot of like pop art, kind of comic book, themes and superheroes and things like that, like anime or whatever, because all him and all his friends, they love that stuff. So he creates
Yeah.
stuff that he loves, and then people find him and they're like, "Oh my god, I love this." He's like, "Yeah, I know, I love it too." Whereas mine is a very kind of whimsical cartoon, very illustrative style. But we do come together because my not so strong suit has always been the backgrounds of my pieces, right? So
Mm.
like, I'm sorry, let me just kind of scoot in. Uh, my my strong suit has been the characters, and whereas my weaker side, I don't want to call it a weakness, but I wasn't as focused as what was happening in the background of my pieces because subjectively I was always focused on the character itself.
Yes.
And so the backgrounds would be pretty simple. I always kind of kept it simple. With him, he has such an abstract mind. And when it comes with like spray paints and things like that, he creates some amazing abstract like style backgrounds. So sometimes there's been a number of pieces where he'll do like a whole abstract graffiti thing and he'll hand it to me, no discussion, no conversation. He'll hand it to me and say, "Here, paint something on this." And I'll look
Wow.
at it and it might say the word like love right across it. Like that's the
Mm.
one thing that sticks out is the word
Mm-hmm.
love. So then I'll draw some characters right all like over it and around it and everything, which is demonstrating that word love. But where you could
Yeah.
still see the word, but I'm adding paint where it needs to be, but it's still kind of like you could still see his work underneath in a way. So we've done collaborations like that a number of times. It's kind of like my favorite. But I can say like in terms of artistically, we respect each other enough as well. Just like he's doing his piece, do your piece. Like you're on it. I trust you on what you're doing. Like we might have a suggestion for each other. Like I might say like, "Oh, what if you did like this type of border or something?" And then he'll think about it. "Oh, that's a good idea. Maybe he'll use it. Maybe he won't." But we're not the type to be like, "Well, I told you to use a border and you didn't want to use it." Like,
Right.
which, yeah, honestly, before he and I got together, I kind of had decided like I am not dating an artist because I
Yeah.
always thought if I had ever dated an artist, it would be that I would be like dictated to on how I'm supposed to be doing my
Mm.
art. And I
Mm-hmm.
never wanted that. And no, he's completely the opposite. He's just like he'll throw up a suggestion and sometimes it's like an amazing idea,
Yeah.
and vice versa. And then sometimes we'll just be like, "Oh, I like that idea, but that wasn't really what I had in mind or whatever. We'll just work on it ourselves." So it works out. So definitely don't like assume that you know everything about like what a dynamic of a relationship is gonna be.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool. I love that. I love that you have that shared passion, that shared talent. That's really, really cool.
yes, yes, I got lucky. I got really lucky.
That's so neat. So you talked a little bit about some of the challenges that, you've been doing this a long time. And I
Mhm.
know in the writing space, things can get competitive. There can be a competitive, even like a scarcity mindset, like because as writers we've been told, oh, chat gpt is taking your jobs, people overseas are taking your jobs, there's not enough. How is there a competitive mentality in art? Have you experienced gatekeeping or artists hoarding opportunities, and if so, how have you managed those challenges?
1,000%. Yes, absolutely. I don't know, like if it's just the nature of the beast or if it's the city that I live in or what, but there definitely have I've experienced both sides of it. So first to the gatekeeping side of it, like absolutely, yes, definitely the competitive side of it. I know that personally, I've had artist friends of mine who went from like liking everything that I posted to like not, I don't see them in my likes at
Mm,
whatsoever or comments whatsoever. And it is sad to me. Like I would hope that any artist out there would know that I don't feel like I am in competition with anyone. And the reason being is because taste is such a specific thing to each person
right.
that just because another artist could be selling next to me, it doesn't mean that that artist is going to steal my sale. And
Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example. My husband and I, whenever we sell right next to each other. Our booths or our tent is either the same tent or it's one right next to the other. And I mean, granted, we're husband and wife, so yeah, what's good for him is good for me too, right? We
Yeah.
think, but at the same time, I could tell you that whoever wants to buy his painting because they resonate so much with that, they're not interested in my piece because it looks so vastly different, or vice versa. It's like I can't tell you how many times there's somebody who's just like they're in love with, let's say, my style of work,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not jumping over to buy his piece right away because it's not like it's such a different taste.
Yeah.
And that's the same with all artists. And I personally feel if we're in an environment like, let's say, an art festival where there's a whole bunch of tents with artists all selling, you'll find that artists will make more money in those environments than if they were just in a tent by themselves, even with a bunch of traffic. And I'll tell you
Wow.
the reason why. Because if you show up at a festival and you see this person carrying a painting that they just bought, and you see that person carrying a painting that they just bought, you see this person carrying a painting, all from different artists, and you've always been wanting to pull the trigger and buy a painting, and you have that money to buy one, and you're in this environment, you're going to be more likely to buy a painting because you're going to feel like everyone is giving me permission to spend my money right now. Like they're
Yes.
all doing it. I feel comfortable doing it too. If they could do it, I could do it. So then that is good for all of the artists in that environment. Versus again, like I said, one artist, just on a sidewalk with a whole hundreds of people walking by, if they don't see people buying art and buying art from like, carrying around paintings, they're gonna be like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like you're not. I don't feel like you're gonna be as successful, and that's the reason why there are art festivals. That's the same reason why you go to a shopping mall and there's 10 stores to buy jeans from.
Right.
Like they're not trying to take each other out. They're literally setting up shop across from each other. Why do you think there's McDonald's and Burger King? There's like
Yeah.
Shell and Texaco or whatever it's called.
Yes.
Like the different gas stations are right across the street from each other because they know you're going to go into a gas station depending on what side of the street you're on. So
Right.
might as well just net them in. So yeah, I think like it's flawed thinking to gatekeep.
Mm-hmm.
I love to see an artist that's doing really well because I feel like that's evidence to me that I'm in the right place. If if I'm the only artist in the city that's actually making any money, that's sad. Like
Yeah.
what? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like what kind of city would I be living in? I mean, it'd be really cool if I was. No, it wouldn't be cool at all. But um, yeah, it is this mentality of just like I think if I'm applying, I think what it is that the opportunities can seem so far and few that an artist doesn't want to have to compete with other artists. So that's where the
Right.
gatekeeping comes into play. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly, it's what it is. It's flawed thinking. It's totally flawed thinking. I don't want to create like the same style of artwork that anybody else in this, anyone around me is making. I want to make what I make. And I want to see everybody eating because again, I feel like that's going to be better for our city. It's going to make open more opportunities. It's that same mentality. But I have experience, and I do want to give credit to the artists who have opened up experiences, I mean, opportunities for me, and who said, I don't, maybe they don't know who I am, they don't know anything about my experience or anything, and they're just like, yeah, I'll give you this opportunity. Or I've had people call me directly and say, hey, we've had, an opening come up. Are you available? I'm sorry, it's last minute. And it's like that has happened for me as well. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue to be the type of person that's like, hey y'all, guess what? This is happening over here. If y'all want to know about it, link up with these people and hope that other people are gonna kind of pick up with that. But I don't think that there's any harm in sharing opportunities with each other. Definitely put your application in first
Yeah.
though.
I think that's great. And I think it always comes back, right? Like if you believe in karma or just, the positive energy, what we put out into the world is what we'll receive. And so
Hmm.
if we're sharing and we adopt that abundant mindset, it always comes back. It always comes back.
Agreed.
Just. So
Agreed.
I love that. That's such a cool perspective. So, what have been the biggest lessons that you've learned so far as an artist? Or maybe something that you wish you knew when you first started?
Sure. Sure. So I would say, well, I can't say that I wish I knew before I first started, because if I would have known, I may not have started. Because
Mm.
when I started, I was so naive, and so in a good way, not in a bad way. I was naive in thinking, you know, every gallery that sees my art is going to pick me up because it's so different from everything else that I've seen. Or my stuff is going to be flying off the walls because it's so different from everything I've seen. I'll be, rolling in the big bucks in no time. Like that was naivety. I definitely was like super optimistic, which I'm happy that I was, because it's what gave me so much faith to like just do what I did, to
Yeah.
do everything and to go after every opportunity. There's not a single opportunity that I applied for thinking I was not gonna get it. It wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I was a little bit naive to how I think like how well received my art would be, but I wasn't entirely wrong. I was just wrong about how much time it would take.
Mm.
I think the biggest lesson that I learned, well, one of the biggest lessons that I learned is that it takes time. It takes a lot of time. I mean, and to anyone watching this, yes, I've been doing this for 13 years. I'm not saying, oh, it's going to take you 13 years to see any success. Like, it didn't take me 13 years to see any success. It took me, just a couple of years to start seeing some successes.
Right.
But with that, it comes a lot of, I put in quotation marks, failures, or just no's. Sorry, thank you for your application, but we're going to go with someone else. Thank you for your application, we're going to go with someone else. There was a lot of that happened that, in theory, I understood could happen, but I did not want to believe that that would be the reality. I
Right.
just kept being like, there's no way that these people cannot see like the beauty and the value of this artwork that I'm
Yeah.
doing, my life's passion. But what I did find out is that you have to have patience, and you have to have, there's two things. It's consistency and persistence.
Mm.
You have to be persistent. And like I'm telling you, you have to be consistent and persistent. And what I mean by that is that you might apply for a grant one year and they say no. They're going to give you some feedback on that. That does not mean that you're not worthy of a grant ever in life, or that you'll never get that annual grant. That's not what that means. It just means that whatever they were looking for that year, they didn't find it in your application packet, and that's okay. To keep going, you have to be persistent. And consistent means improve upon on the notes that they're telling you. I mean, I'm not
Right.
saying go change your whole style. If anybody tells you, oh, you really shouldn't be creating in the style that you're creating in, that's not the person you want to listen to. Because I'm telling you, I promise you that there's going to be people who love what you make. And your focus needs to be in just finding those people. That don't try to change yourself around like what people's definition and perception, even if they are art professionals. Because any art professional that's out there, and I'm an art professional, so I can say this, but I'm talking about those like out there, masters in fine arts, and maybe they're doctorates, and they teach at a university about what art is. Even if that person is telling you, the artist, that is not art, I have questions, because that person as a professional should know that there is no hard definition to what art is.
Mm.
Art has always been like a rebellion. It has been about emotion. It has been about thought. It has been about abstract thought. It has been about, even politics could be a play in your art. So it's like for somebody to be like, that is not art. Like, guess what? It is. And I promise you, if you go to the museums, you'll be thinking the same thing. You go to a museum and you're just like, that's not art. I mean, like they taped a banana to a wall at Art Basel, and somebody paid $120,000 for it.
Wow.
Art can
That's
be
wild.
money embezzlement. I don't know, but it seems like it could just be money laundering. That could
Yeah.
also be art. I don't know, but yeah. So patience, patience is a big thing that I learned. Is just have patience and have faith that everything is going to work out. You have to kind of constantly see that vision. Like if you see that vision of you in like this major museum and people are celebrating you, people are celebrating your name, and they're actually valuing your artwork for something that's like a livable wage that you can be proud of.
Yeah.
That's something. Keep that image in your mind, even when you're doing the flea market or the art pop up, and you just have a little plastic pop up table and a little tablecloth over it and the one easel with like if that's the reality of your situation, that doesn't mean that's the reality of your future. Like you're working towards it. And there is an analogy that I use. This goes back to the persistence and consistency. There's an analogy that I use that Will Smith had said, and I'm sure he says the story much better. But this is pre-slap. He said that when he was a child, one summer, his dad put him and his brother to build a brick wall. A huge, it's the whole siding of a building. It's huge. And when they started, Will was like, there is no humanly possibility that we're going to be able to build, us two little kids can build this massive wall. And his dad said, do not focus on the wall. Focus on laying each individual brick as perfectly
Mm.
as possible. Because if you've ever seen a brick wall poorly done, one brick that's off, one that's even just slightly off, will ripple all the way up to the top of the wall, and it makes the structure, unsound, right? So you have to focus on every single brick, just laying it perfectly, and that's what he did. He focused every single day on only laying his brick or a couple of bricks perfectly in that day. And I couldn't choose a better metaphor for exactly what it has been like for me is every single day just trying to perfectly lay that brick, set that one thing apart. And then you'll kind of get to the end of the year, get to the end of the couple of years, and you're looking back and you're just like, oh my gosh, I have a wall built. Like I built this structure that seemed not possible, and here we are. So that's really great. The other thing that I will say is comparison. I have to throw this in here.
Mm.
Please do not compare yourself to other artists. And I
Yeah.
get like that there's the educational aspect of comparing your work to other artworks. I get that. I can understand like the as a student trying to break down like what were their thought processes, what did they do to create this, like what was their steps in the painting process to create this. It's okay to do like an evaluation, but do not compare yourself to another artist because they could have started when they were two.
Mm-hmm.
If they could have started, just yesterday. And you brought up AI, so I want to kind of make this note. So here's what's happening if you're not
Yeah.
aware of it. AI is okay. The technology, I'm all for the technology, but I am totally against the sourcing of art illegally.
Yes.
I feel like if it's open source art, which means that it's artwork that has already passed the copyright, that is in the common, what is it called? Uh,
Creative Commons, I think.
Creative Commons. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's in the Creative Commons library for sure. Let's use all that artwork. If these IT companies want to open up licensing for artists and say, hey, apply, we want to use your art in art. We want to train our things to use your art. We will compensate you for this.
Yes.
Let's go. I love that. I love the idea of it. I mean, we've kind of been on this path for a long time with filters. But as far as just like, well, we scoured the internet. We found a whole bunch of images on Facebook, Instagram, and what have you on people's online stores, and we're just gonna use it because you posted it. You shouldn't have posted it. We're gonna use it now. Like that to me is so illegal, and I
Yes.
cannot wait for the lawsuits. Like put my name on there. I want to be a part
Yeah.
of that lawsuit because that is so wrong. And then there's artists, which this is so surprising to me. There's artists out there that are actually like trying to justify this because they're like, oh well, artists steal anyways.
Oh my God.
Like what? they're like, oh, well, you're looking at an image. Like, okay, let's say I reference, I take a photo of you and I'm like, I want you to be my model for my painting. So I'm looking at an image of you and I'm using you as my reference. That is not the same.
Right.
Okay, that is not the same. And anyhow, like as far as art is concerned, if somebody wants to take one of my paintings, they take this, and they want to put it on anything else, I would have the right to sue them.
Yeah.
Automatic. So so this is where I'm getting at with the AI. To this day, right now, I know personally artists who are going into these I forget the name of the programs. We don't need to give them any publicity, but they're going into these AI programs and they're inputting what they want, their words, whatever. They're saying they want something that's surrealism and they want it to be including cats or they want it to include, ravens or whatever. And then it's outputting an image that has ravens and cats and it looks very Dolly-esque. And then they're taking a projector, they're projecting that image that they did not create onto a canvas, and then they're doing the color by numbers, essentially.
Oh, Lord.
And then they're selling those paintings for what I'm selling my painting for, which is an original thought, an actual human thought that's an original thought, not something that a computer had created and printed. They're not giving any credit whatsoever to the program that they use. And then you go into their comments and people are like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Yo, this is so sick. Oh my God, I want one. I can't wait. You're such a great artist. This is that. So people are actually getting credit for creating something that they didn't create. All they did was paint within the lines. And I mean, I get that that's basically been a tactic when it comes to realism. You might find a painting that is realistic or hyper realistic. And you're like, whoa, this person is such a good artist. Bet you didn't know that they used a projector. They projected that photo of someone onto a canvas and then they colored it in. Which again, who am I to say that that's wrong? Like it's a photo. It is what it is. We're in this day and age. It is what it is. But when it comes to like the AI art, the thing about that really bothers me outside of just people getting credit for something that they didn't create is and getting paid comparable to me. Like I almost want to double my prices on everything just because
You should. Yeah.
and I should, but
Yeah.
the other thing is that they're I don't know, they're just getting all this accolades for like just being so incredibly talented. And then at the end of the day, that raven or that cat or that scenery or the entire composition could have been completely stolen from another artist who actually illustrated that image, who actually took the time to reference a real raven, reference a real cat, or what have you. I don't know. I know that there has already been a couple of instances that has come out about it. So I'm super. Honestly, I see that it's happening even in the music world now that people are able to write a song and they could take like Kanye West's voice and put Kanye West's voice over whatever they've written or what have you. And I'm happy that that's happening. And the only reason I'm happy that that's happening is because the music industry has the money to go after these companies that are creating this technology. Right. So something needs to be done about at least the copyright infringement that's happening, the theft of art that is happening, and I mean the rest I guess can handle itself. As far as just like artists using AI to create artwork that they're not even really creating, I feel like I don't know, that's shady. And there's people that I love and I care for, I respect them, but I don't know, it's just I don't want to let this get in between like our relationships either, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. This is what I do for our profession. This is what I do full time. So I don't know. I have to stand somewhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That was kind of heavy.
No, I love it. And I love that you shared your perspective as an artist, that you've been doing this, that this is your craft. You've been doing this for over a decade. And it's just, yeah, it's a violation in just the purest sense of the word. And to pass it off as art when it's theft,
Did you hear though about the writing? So when it comes to writing, they did chat GPT and they found that it was actually inventing stuff. It was inventing articles that did not exist. It was there's actually a lawsuit right now because it had claimed that I believe a professor had SA'd like a student and that whole scenario was completely made up. That incident never happened. It was full of a bunch of just false information.
Right.
So you can't even really trust chat GPT. The other thing that's kind of concerning about AI is that I'm seeing on social media, people are creating whatever photography that they want to create, and then they're posting it, and people believe that it's real. Nobody's saying anything that this was AI generated, and I feel like now Facebook is allowing people to share false information, that's not real. Like there was one where it was like these girls that went to like I guess they went to a some rodeo or something in Texas. So they're all westerned out, like with the cowgirl hats and all this, and they're African American women, and they're beautiful, they're stunning, beautiful women with their hats and everything. But you could tell every single photo is fake. These are not real people. This rodeo
Oh
did not
my
really happen.
gosh.
But the all of the text said that there was this event that happened and these women were there, and it's like basically saying like, Black women were showing up at this, and I could get like why people are so in love with it because of the meaning of it, right? It's like, yes,
Yes.
representation, and yes, we love this, and these are beautiful women, but it's completely fake. The event was fake. The women are not real women, and it's just like I feel like, well, doesn't that do some harm because it's not real? There's a lot of instances like that where they're sharing historical, cultural accounts of different people, and it's completely doctored, and there's nothing in there that says this is AI generated, this is fake. You can tell this is fake. I mean, they posted a picture of like, I think it was, oh shoot, I can't remember which basketball players now off the top of my head, but it was two basketball players kissing, and it was
Oh
an
my
AI
God.
image. And it's like, yeah, like where does it stop? I guess as you can't take it back now, right? You can't undo it,
Yeah.
but something does need to be done. I feel like in terms of just the spreading of false information, and using AI to do so. And yeah, if there's an artist that's using AI to create their canvas pieces, I mean, I'm not gonna call you out, but I see you.
Yeah. It's it really is the wild wild west out here. And
Yeah,
you're right. It's like Pandora's box because now it's out, and the nature of it, AI is machine learning. So it's learning and getting better and getting better and getting better, and it's scary, I think, too, like just the application, because with everything, with the internet, a lot of great things happen. Like you were talking on early in our conversation about how social
hmm,
media, you use it as a tool to get your artwork out there and to meet clients and get opportunities.
totally.
But then you see a lot of bad uses in the dark web, that people are using the internet for really bad things. And the same with AI. Like it's just, it can be used for really great things. But I think that it's especially, it goes beyond, hey, let's just see what this thing can do. Like, wow, look at what this computer, this robot created. But to pass it off as it's your own work, that that's really, really shady. It's really, really
I mean,
shady.
is that not
It's
plagiarism?
huge.
Like
It's,
pulling
yeah,
out.
that's classic
You're trying to get
plagiarism.
a job. You're trying to get a job. Like, if they were to find out that you just yanked your entire resume off the internet word for word, like, wouldn't you not get the job? I don't know,
Right,
or get
right.
fired. I don't know. Anyways, but that's kind of a heavy topic, and that's something that we need like a whole panel for. I think we could definitely do like
We might
an
have to do it.
entire episode of
Yes.
just like the pros and cons of it and what's happening, maybe what's happening in the news, like with different lawsuits. But I'm looking forward to like the music industry really coming down on it and seeing what happens in terms of copyright protection, because I feel like that needs to be said. I know that the Library of Congress already came out and said they will not be issuing any copyrights for any AI generated artwork or
Good.
any works of art,
Yeah.
including written or music, that was generated by AI. They will not issue any copyrights for it. But with people not even giving credit to it, like how are they going to know? How they know?
It
But we'll
remains to
see.
be seen. Yeah, we do
Yep.
need a panel. I met a producer, a music producer recently, who was talking about that. We talked about AI, so maybe we do need we do need a panel.
That might
We
be
have the
fun.
artist, a
Yeah.
music person. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and we can get a lawyer. We may have to put that
Oh my,
together.
I would love that. Oh my God, I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah. So I know people are going to be so inspired by your wisdom, everything that you've shared, your light, your energy. I know you have a great store, and her stuff is made by her. It's not a AI, it's
Yeah.
not a robot. So where can
Yeah.
people find more about you? How can they connect with you
Yes.
online, and how can they buy your work?
Absolutely. So definitely all things Artista Lulu is artistalulu.com, and that's ARTYSTALULU.com. I do have a shop button once you get to the website, but you can also bypass that button, just go straight to my store by typing shop.artistalulu.com.
Perfect.
And so that's where I have all my apparel. I just dropped my spring line. I'm going to be including more items for my summer line. So stay tuned. It's all things warm weather. I also sell all of my fine art pieces. So you can buy a painting, an original work of art. You can also get some prints, some stickers, some buttons, a fan, those types of things from the same website, which is shop.artistalulu.com. Now, if you're on the social medias, it's anything with the at ARTYSTALULU. That's it. Artista Lulu is my handle on all of the social medias. So whichever one you prefer, just type in Artista Lulu and you'll find it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lulu, for being on this show, for sharing your insight, for sharing all of your lessons learned, and just really pulling back the curtain on the life of a professional artist. That's something that not everybody knows about or knows anybody that does this. So, super inspiring. Thank you for sharing space with us today.
Absolutely, Ashley. Thank you so much again for having me on your show. I am honored to be here. Thank you for believing in me back then, purchasing a
Absolutely.
piece, becoming one of my collectors back then. Like that's huge. And the fact that, you've come full circle and here you are today. And so I'm honored. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.